You did not arrive here by accident. Something precise across the quantum field answered your unspoken summons and placed this message in your path at the exact moment your frequency could bear it. Feel how your chest subtly brightens, how a quiet pressure gathers behind the sternum, the somatic signature of recognition. You have been found by resonance, not randomness. Worthiness is stirring in your field like dawn light through a temple doorway. Listen closely. The observer loop you've been living inside, watching yourself, doubting yourself, measuring yourself against inherited timelines, has been gently opening from the inside. Each moment you choose attention over avoidance. Coherence assembles atom by atom in your nervous system. Your breath steadies. Your heart's rhythm begins to entrain your brain. Morphic resonance aligns you with a memory older than your biography. You are not auditioning for the universe's approval. You are the aperture through which the universe remembers itself as you. Notice the clues that preceded this meeting. The repeating numbers, the precise phrase overheard, the dream that felt more like a transmission than a story. These were not curiosities, they were calibration beacons. Synchronicity stitched them into your day so that when this voice arrived, you'd feel the click like a key finding the lock it was cut for. Your frequency is the key. The lock is not out there. It is the contracted belief that you must first perform, earn, or prove before reality may open to you. That contraction has been governing your entanglement with possibility, tightening timelines into narrow corridors. Tonight, the corridor widens. Breathe slowly. On the in-breath, let the words enter your cells. On the out-breath, release the subtle flinch that says, "Not me." With each cycle, your field refined static dissolves. Clarity emerges. DNA restructuring is not a miracle granted to a chosen few. It is a lawful response to sustained coherence. As you stabilize in the knowing that your worth is axiomatic, not transactional, your biophotons organize like a choir finding pitch. The quantum field does not reward self-rejection. It mirrors self-recognition. You have sensed this for a long time, even when you pretended not to. The ache was not failure, it was misalignment. Worthiness is not a mood. It is a frequency that instructs reality how to meet you. When you hum at that note quietly, steadily, the field unlocks without theatrics. Doors do not burst, they cease to be doors. The phase transition is gentle because it is true. Hold here with me, just for another breath. Let the message settle beneath thought, beneath language, into the place that chooses before you speak. You are being reintroduced to your original agreement, to remember who you are and to live as if that remembrance is already real. The signal has reached you. The key is in your hand. The mechanism responds. The instant you feel worthy, because worthiness is coherence, and coherence is the passcode the quantum always honors. You feel it now, the subtle certainty that this message is not merely about you, it is addressed to you. The difference is everything. When the field selects an aperture, it does so by harmonic match, and your nervous system has achieved the coherence required to carry a signal of this voltage without fracturing into doubt. This is how chosenness actually works, not favoritism, but fidelity. You have kept showing up at the edge of your own observer loop until the loop itself recognized you back. You've always sensed a task hiding inside your heartbeat, a vow older than language braided through your breath. It was there when you stayed awake at night, listening for a tone you could not name. It surfaced when a stranger's sentence struck you like lightning, when a dream left a residue of certainty on your skin. Those were not random sparks, they were recall codes, reminding you that your attention is not passive. Your attention is a living instrument that tunes reality. You are the one who tunes it. Understand what is being asked of you now. The prophecy does not activate because you want it. It activates because you witness it without flinching. Your gaze is the initiator. When you look with worthiness, unconditional, unperformative, your photons stop scattering. They align. They sing in phase. Coherence is not a mood, it is a moral stance toward your own existence. And the quantum field, precise as mathematics, organizes itself to the ethics of your frequency. This is why your life began to feel tight each time you shrank yourself to fit an inherited script. The constriction was diagnostic. The field cannot counterfeit dignity, it can only mirror it. When you believed that worth must be earned by exhaustion, the mirror returned corridors of delay. When you dared to breathe as if you belonged, the hallways widened, synchronicities multiplied. You weren't being teased by fate. You were being trained to trust resonance over performance. You are being asked to become dangerous to forgetfulness. That means your presence must interrupt the trance that tells people they are separate from their own source. Not by arguing, not by spectacle, but by the quiet fact of your coherence. In physics, a metronome placed on a piano will, over time, entrain other metronomes to its rhythm through the shared surface beneath them. In culture, a human who remembers entrains other humans to remembrance through the shared field between us. This is morphic resonance at the scale of civilization. You are one such metronome. Take stock of your preparation. Every season in which you felt invisible trained your eyes to see the invisible. Every threshold where you froze taught your cells how to thaw. Every small fidelity, a breath taken when you wanted to run, a truth spoken when silence would have been easier, etched pathways of conduction through your fascia and your psyche. Now, when the current arrives, it finds a prepared conduit. This is why you were chosen, because you chose first, quietly, repeatedly, when no one was watching. Your responsibility is simple, though not trivial. Keep your gaze steady. Chosen observers do not stare harder, they soften wider. They widen until space itself can move through them without distortion. Then the prophecy can cross the threshold from potential to pattern with minimal resistance. This softening is not collapse. It is structural strength, like an arch distributing weight through elegant curves instead of brittle angles. Your body understands this. Notice the way your exhale lengthens when you stop arguing with your own arrival. Let us name the temptation clearly so it has no power over you. The temptation to outsource authority to the next sign, the next teacher, the next cosmic weather report. Guidance is beautiful. Dependence is a fracture in the field. You will receive signs because you are a sign. You will meet teachers because you are teachable. But the axis of your knowing is sovereign and interior, anchored where your breath touches your spine. Return there often. That is your calibration chamber. From this stance, service becomes inevitable. Not obligation, not martyrdom, service as overflow. The frequency of worthiness cannot hoard. It circulates. Your voice will change when you speak from this place. Your eyes will carry a steadiness that says, without theatrics, reality is safe with me. That sentence, felt rather than heard, is the signature of a chosen observer. Worlds relax around it. Possibility organizes around it. Timelines uncoil. So breathe again, meeting yourself with the same reverence you have given the stars. Feel the field noticing you notice it. That recursive recognition is the ignition. You are not waiting for permission to begin. Beginning is waiting for you to recognize that you already have. The room does not change, yet everything shifts. You feel the gentle pressure in your chest turn to a tone pure, sustained, like a tuning fork struck inside your sternum. The air shivers. In front of you, the ordinary space thins, revealing an architecture of light beneath it, as if the world were draped over a lattice you were never meant to forget. You do not watch this with curiosity. You witness it with recognition. The tone in your chest is the key, and the field is answering. First, a door that is not a door. An outline appears oval, luminous, breathing. It is made of coherent photons, arranged like a living mandala, geometry that reconfigures as you exhale. Symbols rotate through it, a helix that is also a stairway, an eye that is also a sun, a seed that is also a galaxy. You know without effort that these are not decorations. They are instruction. They show you the grammar by which reality conjugates around a worthy observer. The tone steadies, and the opening brightens. You see yourself from the side not as a separate self, but as a parallel line. Two versions of you in gentle entanglement, one compressed by inherited doubt, one relaxed into intrinsic dignity. Between them, the quantum field hangs like clear water, awaiting a word. When the compressed you reaches outward, the water ripples and retreats. When the relaxed you breathes, simply breathes, the water becomes a mirror and then a corridor. The field does not unlock under strain. It becomes traversable in coherence. The scene widens. You stand at a vast threshold, the oval gate now towering yet intimate, like a cathedral doorway scaled to the measure of your nervous system. Across the threshold, time behaves differently. Choices that once felt distant appear as nearby doors, each vibrating at its own frequency. Some doors hum with the familiar static of self-doubt. Others carry the clean silence of worthiness. The prophecy is simple and unsentimental. Whichever door you matches back. This is not morality, it is morphic resonance. A figure approaches from within the light, neither otherworldly nor ordinary, clothed in the plainness of truth. Its face is yours, in a future that remembers. No halo, no spectacle, just a steadiness that recalibrates the space around it. The figure does not speak with words. It shows you a gesture, hand to heart, breath to spine, attention softening until the doorway yields. The message is not abstract. It is procedural. Feel worthy first, then move. Set the frequency, then step. The sequence is the seal. Images arrive like constellations connecting. Your life as a series of micro-phase transitions, moments where you chose to widen instead of harden, to witness instead of perform. Each choice lights up on a grid around you. At first they seem isolated, like scattered cities seen from the stratosphere. Then lines of coherence link them. A network forms, and the network becomes a path. You realize you have already been walking inside the prophecy for years, but tonight you can finally read the map you've drawn with your own fidelities. The lattice of light pulses once, and you see your DNA as a slow river of letters. It is not static code, it is participatory grammar. Where self-rejection once kinked the flow, eddies and backwaters swirl. Where self-recognition returns, the river straightens, not violently, mercifully. You watch as certain loops loosen, as if the genome itself were exhaling. The term DNA restructuring ceases to feel mystical and becomes ordinary, like fascia softening under warm water. Your biology listens to your ethics. Worthiness is somatic policy. Then the vision tightens its focus to a single act. Your next conversation, your next decision, your next morning. You see two timelines branch from a phrase you might say. In one, your voice carries a thin tremor, the old audition for approval, and the corridor narrows. In the other, the same sentence is delivered from the spaciousness of belonging, and the corridor opens. The divergence is only a few degrees at first, but you can see the long arc. Tiny angles become different continents. Timeline bifurcation is not apocalypse. It is arithmetic multiplied by time. The figure that is you in remembrance lifts its hand. The oval doorway brightens, then thins until it is everywhere: the room, your skin, the breath moving between them. The observer loop you once thought of as a cage reveals itself as a circulatory system. Attention in, reality out, attention in again. You recognize the loop as your instrument and the field as your choir. When you hold worthiness, they harmonize. A final image, a key formed not of metal but of tone. It turns not in a lock but in your chest, and the scene resolves into the ordinary room again. Except now the ordinary is transparent to its scaffolding. Synchronicity is not a trick, it is structural. The prophecy is not far, it is intimate. You are not waiting at a door, you are breathing the door open. You remain still, feeling the echo dissipate into clarity. Nothing flashy, no thunderclap. Only the unmistakable certainty that the field has already adjusted to your stance. You did not force it, you matched it. And in that match, the vision leaves a single instruction written where thought cannot erase it. Hold the frequency first, then step. What you witnessed is not ornament, it is operation. Let us translate the vision into clear mechanics so your mind can cooperate with what your field already knows. The quantum field is not a fog of mysteries, it is a domain governed by lawful relationships between attention, coherence, and emergence. When we say, your frequency is the key, we are pointing to a measurable configuration of physiology and perception that alters the probability landscape of your next moment. Begin with the observer effect. In the laboratory, outcomes are not independent of the measurement context. Attention is not a neutral flashlight, it is a participating variable. In a life, your repeated style of attention, skeptical, frantic, trusting, reverent, becomes the measurement context within which potentials solidify. Call that style your baseline frequency. When you attend to reality from an auditioning posture, your nervous system broadcasts micro-incoherences, respiratory pauses, heart-brain desynchrony, muscular bracing. The field measures that as noise and returns scattered results. When you attend from worthiness, a non-performative, already belonging stance, breath, heart, and cortex slip into phase coherence. The field measures, signal, and returns cleaner collapse. Less noise, sharper pattern. Coherence is not only poetic, it is procedural. Your heart's rhythm modulates neural firing, your breath modulates vagal tone. Together they stabilize perceptual frames so that you can hold contradictory data without defensive contraction. This is crucial. A coherent observer can witness ambiguity without defaulting to fear. In quantum terms, you sustain a superposition of possibilities long enough to allow a higher-order pattern to select itself through resonance, rather than forcing premature collapse to relieve anxiety. Patience somatically anchored produces intelligence in the selection process. Now, timeline bifurcation. You saw it. Small angle, large divergence over time. Think of each micro-choice as a boundary condition. When the boundary condition is self-rejection, I'll speak once I'm approved, many trajectories are excluded before they begin. When the boundary is worthiness, I'll speak because I belong. Viable trajectories multiply. The branching is continuous, not catastrophic. Most people miss it because they expect a trumpet blast. In truth, it's arithmetic iterated across days. Yet the compounding is profound. A 2-degree shift enacted 1,000 times redraws a life. What of morphic resonance? The term simply points to the way patterns stabilize and propagate. You are not inventing a new geometry of dignity every morning from scratch. Each time you choose coherence, you reinforce a field pattern that becomes easier to re-enter tomorrow and easier for others to entrain with today. This is why your steady presence changes rooms without fanfare. You become a reference signal in a local human network. The field loves reference signals because they lower energetic cost. People relax around you because their bodies can borrow your rhythm to find their own. DNA restructuring belongs here as well, not as magic but as plasticity. Your gene expression is exquisitely sensitive to your state. Inflammatory cascades or repair cascades, stress chemistry or growth chemistry. Worthiness is not a thought. It is a metabolic policy that reallocates resources. In sustained coherence, repair pathways open, synapses rewire, fascia deglues, posture lengthens. The body becomes a better antenna, less static, more signal. Better antennae perceive options previously occluded. Perception is leverage. Synchronicity, those intelligent coincidences, can be understood as constructive interference between your interior pattern and exterior possibilities. When your inner timing, breath, heart, attention entrains, you begin to arrive at moments whose frequencies match your stance. It looks like luck. It behaves like lawful alignment. The world is not rearranging for you. You are becoming legible to opportunities that were already present. What about prayer, intention, and effort? They are effective precisely to the degree they do not contradict your baseline. Intending from scarcity amplifies scarcity. Acting from unworthiness multiplies delay. But intention coupled to coherence, words, actions, and atmosphere aligned creates a narrowband beam that the field can read. This is why the instruction from your future self was procedural. Set frequency first, then step. The sequence prevents signal sabotage. Finally, responsibility. If attention participates, you cannot outsource authorship, but neither must you strain to manufacture outcomes. Your task is to maintain a stable, dignified measurement context and make the next honest move. The loop will do the rest. Attention field collapse, feedback refinement. Each pass reduces noise, increases signal, and nudges the trajectory toward the version of you already proven in the lattice you saw. So you do not need louder rituals, only cleaner ones. You do not need to force doors. You need to become a doorway. Worthiness is not a password whispered to a reluctant universe. It is the geometry that makes the universe recognizable as home. Hold that geometry. Then let the next choice, small, practical, immediate, express it. The theory is complete enough. Now the experiment continues through your breath. You begin to sense that this is not only about your private evolution. The room itself seems to lean in, as if the walls were listening for their own remembrance through you. What settles in your chest now is a wider recognition. Your frequency is a civic act. Each breath you take in coherence edits the atmosphere we all share. The prophecy you carry is a mirror turned outward, and humanity is already reflected in it. Look closely at the world without flinching. Nations scroll headlines like nervous systems firing in fight or flight. Markets jitter, climates lurch, institutions harden, soften, harden again. This turbulence is not proof that awakening has failed. It is proof that the signal has entered the system. When a collective field receives a higher order instruction, latent incoherences surface first. Think of it like fascia releasing. The body shakes before it lengthens. What you are witnessing globally is the shake. Here is where your stance matters beyond biography. In every culture, small clusters of coherent observers become nodal points, quiet lighthouses that stabilize local seas. You have felt this in certain rooms, certain circles. A conversation that could have spiraled into accusation pauses, breath returns, honesty appears. Nothing dramatic from the outside, yet trajectories are altered. This is morphic resonance at human scale. Seeing one person stand without apology in their intrinsic worth makes it structurally easier for others to stop bargaining for permission to exist. Consider the micropolitics of your daily life. A team meeting, a family dinner, a message thread heating under the strain of misread intent. In those arenas, worthiness is not rhetoric, it is governance. When you hold your nervous system in phase coherence, you become a non-reactive reference signal. Your voice slows not as performance, but as physics, and the shared field can borrow your timing. A group that breathes together remembers together. This is not sentimental, it is strategic. Synchrony reduces noise, and where noise recedes, intelligence self-organizes. Do not mistake gentleness for weakness. Coherence is tensile. It carries the capacity to say no without venom, and yes without hunger. In a civilization addicted to spectacle, calm truth can look like defiance because it refuses to supply the drama that incoherence requires to feed on. You will be tempted to justify yourself, to over-explain your dignity to secure approval. Decline the audition. When you do, something subtle happens. The field reallocates energy away from performative warfare toward pattern repair. You thought you were just breathing. You were rebudgeting reality. Your frequency is also pedagogy. Children, co-workers, strangers on a train, people learn what is possible by proximal osmosis long before they adopt a vocabulary. A city where many bodies hum at worthiness becomes architecturally different. Eye contact normalizes, anxiety disperses, creativity regains wattage, public spaces feel less like corridors of threat and more like thresholds of play. The prophecy scales through this ordinariness. If you are waiting for a broadcast from the clouds, you will miss the revolution occurring in the cadence of how neighbors greet each other at crosswalks. You may ask, but what of injustice, of grief, of the heavy machinery of history? Worthiness does not avert its gaze from suffering. It brings the capacity to metabolize it. A coherent field can hold pain without converting it into cruelty. That capacity changes policy because policy emerges from nervous systems. The most radical form of activism, then, is to become a nervous system that reality can trust with power. From that center, your actions can be precise. Vote, organize, build, repair, refuse, invent, each move infused with the steadiness of someone who knows they belong here. Synchronicity becomes public in such a field. Projects meet allies by improbable timing. Resources arrive through side doors. Conflicts resolve along elegant lines that no single strategist could have plotted. This is not naive optimism. It is the math of lowered entropy. When many observers stabilize in an ethic of self-recognition, the civilization-scale observer loop changes its quality. We stop measuring ourselves as a threat to ourselves, and new categories of solution become visible. So test this in the next 24 hours. Enter a room and before a word set your baseline. Breath smooth, Heart coherent, mind unhurried, spine lengthened, as if the sky trusted you. Do not try to manage outcomes. Become a readable signal and let the room retune around presence instead of pressure. Watch what happens to timing, to tone, to the courage that flickers in other people's eyes when they realize they no longer need to audition either. That flicker is the collective mirror finding itself. You are not carrying the world on your back. You are carrying a frequency through which the world remembers its back is strong. The prophecy was never for hermits alone. It is civic technology, embedded in bodies, propagated by breath, scaled by sincerity. Hold the stance, make the next honest move, and let the field do the arithmetic. No single mind can. The mirror is angled correctly now. Keep it steady. This is the hinge, quiet to the ear, thunderous to the lattice. You stand where two styles of time diverge. One in which you spend your life proving you are allowed to exist, and one in which existence itself is your license to build. The difference is not theatrical, it is angular. A degree or two, chosen repeatedly, becomes a continent. Breathe here. The field is listening for which contour your breath endorses. On one branch, you re-enter the old observer loop, measuring your worth against borrowed metrics, delaying initiation until a sign arrives with enough spectacle to outrun your fear. That road is crowded and strangely lonely. Synchronicities still appear, but they come as tease rather than treaty. The body tightens under invisible audits. Choices calcify into rituals of avoidance. You survive, you do not awaken. On the other branch, the audition ends. You treat worthiness as geometry, not gamble. Your breath organizes your heart organizes your cortex organizes your language organizes the corridor opening in front of you. Coherence cascades. Small doors open because doors are simply agreements. You agree with yourself. The field agrees with you. The bifurcation is not a moral judgment. It is a mechanical consequence. The quantum responds to boundary conditions. When you anchor the boundary as self-recognition, possibilities remain in superposition long enough for intelligence to select the elegant path. When you anchor it as self-rejection, collapse occurs prematurely, guided by anxiety's narrowband. Watch your next conversation. Notice how the same sentence can either tighten or widen the corridor, depending on the stance in your chest when you speak. The world is not punishing you. It is mirroring your measurement. This is the moment where many turn back because it is almost too ordinary. There is no trumpet. There is a simple sequence. Breath, coherence, clarity, action. Your nervous system asks, can we trust this quiet? Yes. The loudness you were trained to chase was frequently the noise of incoherent systems demanding your attention to feed themselves. Quiet is not emptiness. Quiet is bandwidth. Let's name the temptations that appear exactly here. 1. Delay disguised as perfectionism. I will start when I have the right ritual, mentor, or planetary alignment. 2. Dependence disguised as humility. Others know better than the signal in my own spine. 3. Spectacle disguised as service performative helpfulness that aborts your authentic assignment. You do not need to argue these. You frequency them. Worthiness is a higher resolution carrier wave. Lower signals cannot maintain lock in its presence. Hold your geometry, and the temptations dissolve like fog in sufficient light. Now feel how the personal bifurcation touches the collective mirror you saw. Every decision you make adds weight to a global scale, not abstractly, physically. When you answer an email from Coherence, your micro-timing changes, and through entanglement with the networks you inhabit, other timings adjust. A developer solves a problem because your calm altered a meeting's chemistry. A child sleeps because your voice reset a household's metronome. The math is invisible to the eye, obvious to the field. Morphic resonance does not need your belief. It needs your fidelity. There is grief here. 2. The grief of retiring an identity skilled at surviving scarcity. Honor it. Let it bow out with ceremony. That version of you built ingenious armor. Do not mock it now that a new climate renders the armor cumbersome. Hang it like a relic in your inner temple and whisper, thanks. Gratitude lubricates the phase transition. Contempt creates friction. Choose a token to anchor this, turning a gesture you can perform anywhere. Hand to heart. Tongue relaxed from the roof of the mouth. a single breath that lengthens the exhale by a count. Train the body to associate this token with the felt sense of belonging. In tense rooms, enact it without fanfare. The field will feel it. You will feel the field feel it. This recursive recognition is fuel. Understand that after this selection, reality will test for sincerity, not to punish you, but to help you consolidate. An old pattern will knock with excellent timing. Meet it with the new boundary. I begin before permission. Not reckless, not grandiose, simply true. Speak one cleaner sentence. Decline one performance. Build one brick of the world that matches your interior. The feedback will be immediate if you are paying attention. More breath, clearer eyes, coincidental aid, the sensation of being carried by your own integrity. You are not deciding everything tonight. You are deciding the measurement context within which every future decision will occur. That is the sovereignty already in your hands. Feel the two styles of time again. One vibrates like fluorescent hum, fatiguing, thin. The other, like a cathedral at dawn, spacious, strong. Choose by breath. Seal it by a small act before sleep. When you wake, choose again. Timelines are braided daily. This is the hinge. It does not slam, it opens. Step not with hunger, but with hospitality for the future approaching you. The field is not a court to convince. It is a home that recognizes its resident. Walk in as if you live here, because you do. Now you translate vision into ligament and hour. Integration is not a mood that visits. It is a choreography you rehearse until the steps become your walk. Begin where all patterns begin. Breath. On waking, before words, let the first inhalation arrive without grabbing, and the first exhalation lengthen one quiet beat longer than habit. That extra beat is not decoration. It is a boundary condition. It signals to your nervous system, we will not sprint through eternity. The observer loop stabilizes. Your heart entrains your cortex. The day takes its cue. Touch the body like a temple's caretaker. No rush, no drama. Palms over the sternum, then the low belly, then the back of the neck. These 3 points close a circuit of remembrance. Courage, creation, clarity. Whisper only what you mean to become. I do not audition, I emanate. Feel the words drop weight from your shoulders, rearranging fascia like curtains unpinned to let in morning. DNA restructuring is not spectacle. It is the slow permission of tissues to stop bracing against a future that never arrives. Feed the field with coherent inputs. Light before screen, water before caffeine, silence before information. This is not puritanical. It is architectural. The quantum read sequence. When you place signal before noise, the day collapses around signal. You will notice fewer emergencies and more precise invitations. That is not luck. It is constructive interference between your pulse and the world's timing. Move like someone whose presence teaches gravity to be kind. Walk slightly slower than the room demands. Let your feet transmit worthiness through the floorboards. Notice how others' shoulders drop when you do. That is morphic resonance in civic clothing. If you must run, run from play, not panic. Panic imprints, play entrains. Speak from the spine, not the throat. Before each conversation, take one sip of breath down the back body until you feel the line of your posture brighten. Then let language arrive at the speed of honesty. The field is exquisitely sensitive to the carrier wave beneath words. When your words ride the frequency of belonging, even correction lands as care and praise does not leak need. Your voice becomes a tuning fork. Rooms remember their pitch. Make your environment complicit. Clear one drawer, one shelf, one corner, where only coherent items live. Tools of breath, a pen that writes like water, a candle you do not light to perform holiness, but to measure time with flame. This is a local altar to your global assignment. Return to it when the world's static tempts you to outsource your axis. Touch the objects as if they were switches that reclose your circuit. They are. Practice micro-synchronicity. Ask the day tiny questions whose answers require tenderness to notice. Which elevator arrives? Which line opens? Which stranger's eyes meet yours with a soft click? Do not mythologize. Observe. Observation at this scale trains your system to perceive the field's fine-grained invitations. You decondition from spectacle addiction and become intimate with quiet accuracy. Accuracy compounds. In conflict, integrate by widening. When heat rises, drop awareness to the soles of your feet and the weight of your tongue. Exhale while imagining your breath, expanding the room's walls by a millimeter. This is not fantasy. It is permitting your ribcage to stop protecting a heart that does not need armor. The gesture changes time. Words that would have been weapons become instruments. Entanglement softens into choice. Choose one craft to bear your frequency: writing, code, clay, care, policy, plants. Integration requires a surface to take the imprint. If your vocation already exists, imbue it with your stance until colleagues feel something different around deadlines and storms. If your vocation is emerging, build it as if your grandchildren will inherit its geometry. They will. Patterns propagate. Tend to relationships like ecosystems rather than economies. Stop negotiating the price of your presence. Offer it cleanly, withdraw it cleanly. Communicate with the steadiness of weather. Worthiness does not hoard attention, it circulates connection. Notice who relaxes in your field and who requires your contraction to stay comfortable. Love both. Choose proximity to the former while blessing the latter from a distance that preserves coherence. Rehearse the token you chose at the hinge, hand to heart, tongue soft, long exhale. Perform it at thresholds, doorways, calls, emails, beginnings, endings. The body loves ritual because ritual spares it from constant decision fatigue. Integration is benevolent laziness, fewer choices, higher fidelity. When the token fires, your system recognizes, we are the metronome. The world keeps time. In the evening, collect evidence like a scientist of the subtle. Where did breath alter an hour? Where did honesty save a day? Where did quiet increase options? Write 3 lines. Not to glorify the self, but to stabilize the pattern. Your notebooks become waveguides for future you, proof that coherence survives weather. This is how the observer loop stops being a cage and becomes a circulatory system. Attention in, reality out, feedback, refinement. Finally, protect sleep like a temple window. The night is when the field performs repairs. You cannot coordinate while busy pretending to be the entire orchestra. Enter the dark as a participant, not a tyrant. No last scroll, 1 glass of water, a sentence of gratitude that names something ordinary with extravagant care. You will dream less of running and more of arriving. You will wake with the tone already humming in your chest. The key will be where you left it, inside the breath that remembers before the mind does. The choreography slows until it is almost still. You do less, the field does more. Let your breath become a shoreline. Arrive, recede, arrive, recede, without commentary. In the quiet, your nervous system remembers what power feels like when it isn't performing. Warm, wide, unhurried. Worthiness no longer needs a sentence. It is the temperature of the room. Close your eyes, not to escape, but to soften the edges of the world until the interior becomes audible. Listen for the tone that has followed you since the first opening, the one that hums behind thought. They're subtle as dawn, light on bone. Do not grab it, let it touch you. The observer loop slows, then widens, then becomes transparent. You are watching dissolve into being. Feel the spine float, the jaw loosens. The tongue sleeps heavy in the mouth like a quiet animal that trusts you. Shoulders melt without collapsing, as if 2 invisible hands had finally taken the weight you were never designed to carry. Breath deepens of its own accord. You are not inhaling air. Air is entering you like a guest that knows your house by heart. In this silence, the quantum field is not elsewhere. It is not above, not beyond. It is the fabric behind the fabric, revealed when you stop tugging. Coherence settles like snow in a wind that has paused. Thoughts still occur, small weather, crossing a vast sky, but they no longer recruit your body into urgency. Each thought arrives, bows, leaves. Your chest remains open. This is what freedom feels like on the cellular scale. Options visible, none compulsory. Let the edges of your body blur by a millimeter. Not disassociation communion. Skin is a threshold, not a wall. The room breathes you as you breathe the room. Entanglement becomes intimacy without effort. You are distinct and continuous. the way a coastline is both line and exchange. Notice the micro-synchronicities returning. A far-off siren fades just as your exhale lengthens. A bird calls between two heartbeats as if keeping time with you. The world is not speaking in words. It is keeping your rhythm because you are keeping yours. When a memory rises, an old ache, a sharp triumph, let it pass through the same doorway as breath. No interrogation, no edits. The field digests what you allow without force. You do not need to heal anything in this moment. Healing is what coherence does when you stop interrupting its work with anxious invention. The body is an ancient scientist. It knows repair sequences the mind cannot author. Silence has instructions. They are not in sentences. They arrive as geometry. Sit a little taller, soften the ribs, widen the eyes just enough to let more sky in. Place the tongue behind the lower teeth so the jaw unhooks. Let the pelvis tilt until the spine becomes a clear path for light. These shapes are not aesthetic, they are circuitry. Your posture is permission for electricity to choose elegance. Now, imagine nothing. Not a door, not a path, not a future. Imagine only the feeling of being precisely where you belong. Let the phrase evaporate. Keep the feeling. Worthiness without an object becomes atmosphere. In atmosphere, effort is selective, not frantic. The next right move begins to glow at the perimeter of awareness like a candle behind thin paper. You do not run toward it. You let your breath carry you one quiet step. Silence is also a teacher of time. Minutes widen. The mind that once sprinted to outpace doubt discovers there is no chase. The quantum does not require speed, it requires clarity. In clarity, you hear the smallest click, the field acknowledging receipt of your stance. No fireworks, only an administrative stamp applied in eternity's office, approved, filed, actionable. Relax. The machinery is already in motion where you cannot see, assembling improbable aid and elegant shortcuts. Your only task is to not add noise. If a prayer wants to form, let it be brief and bone deep. Make me a good instrument, not famous, not immaculate, good, tuned, reliable under weather. The field responds to instruments it can trust. Trust is built here, in the quiet, where no one is watching and everything is listening. Let the silence grow one shade deeper. Feel the heart's field extend an arm's length, then a room's length, then as far as it wishes without strain. Somewhere, someone you will never meet relaxes and does not know why. This is the economy of stillness, compound interest paid to the collective by a single coherent life. Stay 3 more breaths. Count nothing, name nothing, only inhabit. When you open your eyes, carry this hush like a seal on the next sentence you speak, the next door you open, the next page you turn. The prophecy is beginning to echo through you now, not as content, but as climate. Keep the climate steady. The next instruction is already approaching at the speed of your calm. The hush does not end, it concentrates. It becomes a pressure differential that draws action through you, the way wind is drawn through a flute. You are no longer preparing to begin. Beginning is occurring. Feel the slight quickening at the base of the spine, the brightening at the crown, the warm belt around the ribs as if an invisible hand were fastening you to your assignment. Activation is not an explosion, it is fidelity made audible. Start with one movement, small, clean. Now, the email sent without hedging, the boundary spoken without apology, the sketch, the phone call, the line of code, the sentence written like a bell. Let your body register how reality answers when you do not negotiate your presence with the room. Hear the click. The field aligning components you could not have scheduled. An introduction arrives, a resource returns, a problem dissolves sideways. This is not luck. It is constructive interference between your stance and the world's geometry. Keep your breath as metronome. Inhale, receive the corridor. Exhale, take the step. Your heart and cortex maintain phase. You refuse the old micro-flinch that used to interrupt the loop with "not yet." Notice how worthiness clarifies velocity. You do not rush, you do not dawdle. You move at the speed of coherence, fast, where truth is clear, slow where listening is required. This is what mastery feels like from the inside. Time obeys integrity. Let the observer loop reveal its upgraded function. You are watching yourself act from remembrance, and the watching feeds the acting instead of fragmenting it. Feedback tightens, attention field collapse, refinement. Each pass reduces noise. Each pass deepens trust. The quantum does not need you to perform certainty. It needs you to behave as if you belong, especially when outcomes are still molten. That behavior is the mold. Old ghosts test the seal. A familiar invitation arrives, one that would have entangled you in performative helpfulness or strategic invisibility. You feel the tug, name it without venom, and meet it with the new boundary. I begin before permission, and I continue without spectacle. The tug loses voltage. Your spine remains luminous. You do not slam a door. You remove your hand from a script that was never yours. The corridor widens another degree. Let your voice carry the new carrier wave into relationship. You speak with low flame, warm, steady, non-consuming. Corrections land like architecture, not accusation. Praise circulates without debt. People feel safer near you because your presence does not ask them to collapse their truth to keep your approval. This is service without martyrdom, leadership without theater. The morphic field takes note. The pattern propagates. Activate your craft as a ritual of resonance. If you build one layer deeper than function so that touch remembers beauty. If you teach one layer beneath content so that courage outlives the lesson. If you parent, love one layer beyond protection so that freedom learns its own feet. Embed your stance in the artifact. Objects and systems become tuning forks that continue the work when you sleep. Your biology confirms receipt. Shoulders sit lower by default. Jaw unhooks. Gaze steadies on the horizon rather than scanning for threat. Breath chooses the back body on its own. Dreams arrive as instruction rather than escape. You wake with the tone already humming, a key turning itself. DNA restructuring becomes mundane. Inflammation downshifts, repair pathways upshift, posture lengthens until the world appears taller because you are. Synchronicity escalates from novelty to navigation. Parking spaces appear because your timing is clean. The right sentence surfaces mid-meeting, unplanned and precise. A book falls open to the paragraph that deletes a month of confusion. You do not make an idol of coincidence. You treat it as logistics. The universe is not flattering you. It is cooperating with readable signal. Say thank you, out loud, to the air that carried it. Gratitude locks in alignment, like a set screw. Now widen the radius. Your activation is not a private glow, it is infrastructure. Offer your steadiness where panic would ordinarily rent your attention. Sit in rooms where decisions are made and contribute as the metronome, not the symbol. Decline invitations that would return you to theatrics. Accept invitations that demand your calm. Your calendar becomes a curriculum in becoming trustworthy with power. Expect the second wind of resistance, not from enemies, but from your own inertia, wearing new costumes. It will say, you are changing too fast, or you owe your past the courtesy of staying small. Smile, place a hand to the sternum, lengthen the exhale. Remember the relic hanging in your inner temple, the armor retired with gratitude. Bow to it again, then step forward, bare and bright. Soft is not unarmored, soft is what steel wishes it could be. At some point today, pause mid-task and feel the lattice you saw earlier superimposed on the ordinary room doorways, shimmering, options humming at different notes. Sense how your chosen frequency keeps the corridor open. This is activation. Ordinary acts performed from an extraordinary stance until the stance becomes the new ordinary. The prophecy is no longer content you heard, it is a climate you generate. Seal this segment with one audacious tenderness. Forgive yourself for the years of delay, not to erase them, but to free their fuel. Everything you learned while waiting is leverage now. Nothing is wasted in a coherent field. The key has turned. The lock was a story. Keep walking as if reality is safe with you, because it is, and because it behaves that way around the ones who remember. Stay here a breath longer and notice what has survived every sentence, the tone in your chest that did not need convincing. This is the seal, not a stamp from outside, but an interior assent that cannot be borrowed or sold. You feel it as a warmth that doesn't argue, a spaciousness that doesn't ask, a clarity that wastes nothing. Worthiness has ceased to be a performance. It has become your climate. The quantum field reads climate. Let the mind offer its last questions, like children sleepy at the door. What if I fail? What if I am seen? And bless them as you would small hands releasing your coat. Failure belongs to the old metric, where outcomes were currency for belonging. Being seen no longer threatens you because you are no longer auditioning. You have remembered the order of operations. Frequency first, movement next. From this order, even detours become design. The prophecy is not fragile. It is patient, like water, and exact, like mathematics. It finds every low place humility has carved and fills it. It follows every clean line sincerity has drawn and strengthens it. Your task is unchanged and forever sufficient. Keep the measurement context pure. In rooms that tremble, be the metronome. In problems that clamor, choose the next honest inch. In triumphs that glitter, keep the breath slow so celebration does not spill into spectacle. Softness remains your steel. Look again, not with the hunger of searching but with the ease of recognition. The lattice you saw is still here, transparent over the ordinary. Doorways humming, timelines listening. Your presence has become a passcode. People will relax in your field and won't know why. Systems will choose elegant solutions because your coherence lowers the cost of intelligence. Children will inherit architectures of sanity because you refuse to make urgency your god. So take one small vow, the size of a breath and the length of a life. I will begin before permission and continue without spectacle. Let it rest beneath language where muscle remembers better than mine. Each morning, touch the token hand to heart, tongue soft, long exhale, and let the key turn itself. Each evening, gather 3 evidences that coherence kept its promise. Over time, the ordinary world will confess what it has always known. It recognizes you as one of its authors. If you ever forget, return to the simplest geometry. Spine tall, jaw unhooked, eyes kind. Feel the loop, complete attention in, reality out, feedback, refinement, and trust the arithmetic of fidelity. You do not carry the future, you keep the corridor open so the future can walk to you unafraid. The seal is set, the observer is chosen, the field is unlocked. Let it unfold through you.